opinions expressed on ACB Media are those of the content creators and should not be assumed to reflect product endorsements or the views of the American Council of the Blind, its elected officials, or its staff.
This is Sunday Edition with Anthony Corona. Every week here on ACB Media One, that's American Council of the Blind, Media One, and soon after on all your major podcast catchers. Each week, we'll dive into the news, human interest, and discussions about the issues surrounding all of us in and out of the American Council of the Blind community. Welcome to Sunday Edition. I'm your host, as the bumper there says, Anthony Corona, and I am so very happy to be back with you again on a Sunday. And just a little snapshot behind the scenes to show you guys how much I love doing this show and being here every Sunday with you, or almost every Sunday. I have been up since 7 o'clock this morning. 8:30 a.m. started the Florida Council of the Blind business meeting. Directly after the show, I will be participating in the Blind Pride International Board meeting, and then I will be heading to the airport to fly to Los Angeles for a few days of work, which I am so very excited about. I haven't been in Los Angeles in years and years and years, and even though it's a quick turnaround, I have reached out to some friends out there, some in this community, to do some breakfast, some drinks, and some dinners. So I'm really excited about that. I do have a little bit to share about our usual executive producer, Bryn. She has some post-surgical infection and has been in the hospital for a few days. So first and foremost, from myself, from Sunday Edition, from all of us that love you, Bryn, if you are listening, get well, take care of yourself, rest. And for those of you who are friends of Bryn, you might want to send a little email of, get well and encouragement. Manning our Clubhouse room. Clubhouse, if you want to participate, you guys know what to do, and she will subtly let us know. Manning our Clubhouse room and streaming for us today is a new streamer to the group who we are so glad as part of, everybody knows I stream. Holly Anderson. And Holly, welcome to Sunday Edition in this capacity. And oh my God, your song last night was so great.
Thank you so much, Anthony. I'm excited to be streaming. So
Awesome. And manning our hands behind the scenes in the Zoom room is Diane. Diane, I did forget one instruction. We have a secondary guest in the second hour. Her name is Nancy Rogers, or she may be coming in as Brooklyn Nancy. If you can subtly let me know in a break in the conversation when she's here, I would appreciate that. And real quick, welcome back to Sunday Edition. Thank you for jumping in at the last minute. I hope we're not tearing you away from anything terribly important.
No, I'm glad to be back here, and thank you for the opportunity. And I will let you know when Nancy comes in.
Thank you. All right, one quick announcement. This is a Behind the Music week. So Thursday at 8:30 p.m., Tim and I will be back at the at the controls, listening to the stories behind the songs that we decide to record for karaoke. Having said that, though, we will take spoken word pieces, or a cappella music, or just instrumental music that you yourself have recorded. So look out for that email. Get those songs in. We love hearing the stories. Why we choose. Maybe it's a memory, maybe it's a dedication to someone, but that is always so much fun. So that is Thursday night at 8:30 p.m. And a quick little a little bump on that. In the month of June, Kathy and the other Nancy, West Coast Kathy and Nancy, are going to join Tim and I for one of our Pride Month, for one of the Behind the Musics during Pride Month, which is the month of June. And we're going to kind of hand over the controls to them and let them host the call. So we're really looking forward to that too. For those of you who were wondering about our couple shows, the one that got postponed a few 2 months ago, we are also doing that in June. I will not be producing a live show next week. It's Memorial Day. So we're going to have a rerun. We come back on the 2nd with Mr. T. Scott Thornhill. And then the following week will be that couple show with DJ and Tony and Kathy and Nancy. So it should be an awesome show. And I hope you all come for both of those shows. Having said that, I would like to bring up one of my Florida friends, someone who I respect immensely. She's the current president of the CALM chapter at large members of Florida, does a lot of work for that, and is an avid traveler. And again, like I said, she is a friend, and I'm so very proud to say that. Peggy, welcome back to Sunday Edition. It's been a while.
Yes, it has been. I'm glad to be back.
And correct me if I'm wrong. You might not want to share the destination, but you are actually currently traveling, aren't you?
Well, actually, we've come up to Michigan for the summer because it was getting pretty warm in Florida, so we're up here for the summer. But yeah.
Well, I was perusing, some of the boards that I look at, and a really interesting email came out that I immediately dove into, and we're going to speak with Jay in a little while. But it turns out you actually beta tested with Discovery, right?
Yes. Probably a little over a year ago, I'd say. I saw an announcement that they were looking for people to join a discussion with Jay to bring up the topic of his company does virtual tours, and after all, since the pandemic, at least, blind people have become very familiar with virtual things. So, I thought, wow, I love to travel, and but as you get older, you kind of think, oh God, travel gets to be a lot harder. And so I thought, wow, virtual travel might be something really exciting. So I joined the little working group that Jay formed to look in to discuss, what would make virtual tours and travel in general more accessible to people who are blind and visually impaired. And I think we gave Jay a whole lot of input. um, and he was very open to it, and we really appreciated that. And obviously, we have not been able to, he wasn't able to implement all of it all at once, but he's been very open to it. We definitely talked about the fact that as blind and visually impaired individuals, we rely on a lot of different senses, perhaps, than more than some others. For instance, we talked about how great it would be, when you go to certain areas, you are sort of overwhelmed by the smells and the things like that. I know I was recently in Hawaii, and the smells of the flowers there and things are can be amazing. We also talked about the sounds, like the different music from different areas and things like that are very important for us. And also, sense of touch. I had, and several others mentioned that, in certain countries, when you go, they seem to really have a focus on having like little, tchotchkes, little at the tourist stands, they'll have little like mock-ups of some of the buildings that you're seeing.
Yeah.
And for me, that was like so amazing because it's like I remember when I went to Barcelona, and it was like Sacra Familia, pretty amazing building, and description really would not have um, been all I needed for that. So to be able to touch a little replica, and they're usually only like $5-6. So being able to touch that was so amazing. 'Cause I'm like, wow, that is pretty different. Things like that. So we talked to Jay about a lot of those things, and he came back with lots of questions and for us to test out some things. But then he did come up with a sort of a beta of a virtual tour for us. And it was Mexico City. And it was really wonderful. The describer did a great job. He was walking through some of the downtown area of Mexico City and described a lot of the buildings, and his descriptions were great. We were able to ask some questions and things like that, and so it really was a very worthwhile experience. And I know that subsequent to that, Jay now has several other virtual tours, available for other places around the world. And, I think it's a great experience. And like I say, first of all, uh, you know, going to some of these places overseas can be very expensive. And having gone to Japan last year, the flights are killers, you know.
Yeah.
So, if you can get some of the value of travel, without spending all that time on planes and all the money for hotels and things like that, it really can be a great value to attend one of these virtual tours. And you may find that it's kind of a good sampler for you of what's available or what are the key things in certain cities or places. And then you may decide, well, maybe I do really want to go there in person. But at least you've had a little sample before that.
So I think that is an absolutely great description of sort of the journey that you went through, as and being able to sit in the comfort of my own home and take a tour. We're not going to obviously be able to see an entire experience an entire city, but feeling locally immersed. You mentioned, which is something that when I was talking to Jay back and forth, and of course in the descriptions, you can personalize it with the tour guide by the questions you ask, and the
Yes.
fact that it's limited to a certain amount of people so that everybody gets specialized, information and be able to. Can you just share a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, I know that one of the things on the Mexico City tour, they were describing a building that, the describer was doing a great job telling us that it's entirely covered with tiles, ceramic tiles. And so we were able to say, well, like, how big is each tile? Because it was kind of hard to imagine it without knowing. Are we talking about tiles that are like a foot square, or are we talking about tiles that are bigger than that, or an inch square? So we were able to ask that, and we were able to ask about the colors and things like that. We also were able to ask about some of the parks, what some of the items there, they had in there in terms of foliage and things like that. So it was very useful to be able to go back and forth like that.
Awesome. I'm just going to switch directions for just a second since I have you here. You've mentioned Barcelona, you've mentioned Japan, you've mentioned Hawaii, and I know you've done a lot of other. What has been your the easiest overseas journey, and what has been the most like anxiety ridden?
Um, well, I think easiest, I really have loved going to England. First of all, there, I know the language. That's a
Yeah.
big plus. That's a big plus. I think they have. I'm kind of a history nut, so I really enjoy the history over there and seeing a lot of the buildings and places that I've heard about and studied. So that's been probably one of my favorite experiences. They're also very blind friendly, I will say. They do an interesting thing in most of their museums. Um, they don't give the blind person free admission, but they give a companion to the blind person free admission. So if you have someone who is they call it a carer, which that word kind of threw me at first, but anyway, so if you have a sighted person with you, um, at all the museums there, they do allow that person to go in for free, which is kind of a nice incentive to get some of your friends to to go to buildings they might not, or museums that they might not normally want to go. But anyway, so I think they're very friendly over there to blind people and so forth. Um, I'd say going to China and some other places in the Far East were probably my most anxiety ridden. It was just, you were a little uncertain about, certain, you had to make sure you were on your best behavior and things like that. You didn't want to get in trouble with the government, that's for sure. So,
Yeah. So one more for you, and then I'm going to ask you to introduce Jay.
sure.
A lot of our community has strong anxiety about traveling outside the country. Um, what's your you've done a lot of it, so maybe it's a lot easier now, but what's your kind of go-to? How do you get your head, wrapped around, I'm going to get on that plane and I'm going to experience, a place where I don't know the language or know very little of the language, and I'm blind.
Yeah, I think it's important if you have a support system, if you're traveling with other people, things like that, that's a big help. But if you do travel by yourself, I think, one of the most important things is to do your research. I know that I have a friend who's totally blind and she's been all over the world by herself in a lot of places. Um, and it's very doable, but she is also a big fan of, Google is your friend and, find out what places might be useful. Find out, make sure that your hotel is, you know, within either has a restaurant or dining nearby that's easy walking distance, things like that, because it can be kind of tricky if you don't do your research. I knew somebody who went to Kauai um, for their honeymoon, and they were both visually impaired, and they heard about a fun resort. Well, the problem is they found out it was about a $50 Uber ride to get anywhere else, so it was great for being a beautiful place, but so do your research. I think that really helps with the anxiety. You'll feel like you kind of know what's around your hotel, know what sites you want to go to, and obviously, I think a great thing for people to do in any city that they go to is do like a hop on, hop off bus, and they
Yeah.
have narration, and you can kind of, if you're going to go somewhere for a few days, take that the first day, and then you'll kind of get a sense of where might I want to go back to. So, that's kind of my advice.
Awesome. Are you able to stick around with us for a while and maybe
Sure,
participate in the conversation later? Awesome. So
sure,
why don't you
sure.
introduce Jay for us?
Okay, well, Jay is from Live Discovery, and he's the founder of the company. And he was very gracious in reaching out to the blindness and visually impaired community and trying to get our input and try to, work with us to come up with a better understanding of what would be useful for us and what kinds of things we need. And we always found him very willing to listen. And so, Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your company?
Sure. Thank you, Peggy, and thank you, Anthony. Peggy, I really, really appreciate all of your support all along the way. Ever since
Thank
the
you.
first time we talked, so I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, my name is Jay Wei, and just like for those of you who have never met me before, I'm a mid-aged Asian man with a short black hair, brown eyes, and I'm about 5 feet 7 inches in height. I wear a pair of black framed glasses with oval shaped lenses. Right up today, I'm wearing a dark gray t-shirt that says "Be better every day" in both English and Chinese. And that's kind of like my motto ever since I was young. So talking about Discover Live is the pioneer and the leading experts of live virtual world travel. We started our company 7 years ago in 2017. And both myself and my co-founder, Trisha Norton, who is also here, has a huge passion for travel. We used to travel and we still travel quite a bit, even as of today. And we know all those benefits travel brings to people. And not only, make people happier and, fulfill the curiosities, but most importantly, from our perspective, we believe travel opens people's minds, and also allow people to see things in a little bit different perspective. And we started this company originally only focus on the seniors and the senior living communities, as well as people with mobility disabilities. Our mission of the company is to make the life world exploration experience as accessible to as many people as possible, so that everybody, not just 2% or 6% of the population, depending on which report that you see, can really enjoy the benefits that travel brings. And the way how we do this is actually quite simple. We specially train tour guides from pretty much all over the world. As of today, we have more than 200 destinations across 6 different continents. And we use Zoom to take people on real-time, on-location travel experiences. So I hope that kind of like give you a little bit idea about who I am and what our company does.
Absolutely. I'm going to come back to you in a moment. Trish, welcome to Sunday Edition as well. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the founding of the company from your perspective.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anthony. It's great to be here. And Peggy, it's so wonderful to see you and be with you here as well. My name, as Jay said, is Tricia Norton, and I am a middle-aged Irish woman with long, kind of sandy brown hair, brown eyes. Like Jay mentioned, I'm a passionate traveler. Jay and I have worked together actually before Discover Live, and just really kind of briefly, when Jay called me to tell me about this idea way back in, 2016, I guess, I thought this is exactly what I want to do with the rest of my career and working days, because I'm passionate about travel, and I have some really amazing influences in my life, mostly the women in my family who also enjoy travel. One is my aunt, who traveled her whole life. She and my uncle owned a travel agency. They always were the most amazing people to talk to because their stories were so inspiring and just so motivating. And my aunt got dementia later in her life, and really the only thing that brought her back around was to share pictures of her travel with her. And she would go from almost nonverbal to telling us stories about these trips. And I saw the power that travel brought then. And we tried to bring that out in her every time we spent time with her. And I knew, instinctively that was a key to her happiness. And then the other is my mom, who is 83 years old right now. And for her 80th birthday, all she wanted to do is jump out of a plane. And she did. She jumped
God
from
bless.
a plane, yep, at 80 years old. And she continues to travel. She had a stroke a few years ago, but about a year after, she just got back at it. And she has traveled, and she does long trips. And, it's just such an inspiration. So when Jay mentioned this idea to me, I thought, this is genius. The whole notion of making travel, world travel experiences available and accessible to as many people as we can. And that has been our motivation. And so when Jay came up with this idea of working on, audio described tours for people who are blind or vision impaired, it just seemed like a natural extension of what we do, which is why we've poured our heart and soul into this. And people like Peggy have helped us to really turn this into something amazing. So that is really a quick background on me and a little of the reason why Jay and I are so passionate about doing what we do. And thank you so much for having us here.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you both. My absolute bucket list travel experience will be one of these days. I want to do one of the research cruises into Antarctica. And you actually are collecting specimens and tagging there are going to be ways to make it accessible. I've already spoken with companies. I got to do my second on the list, which was a similar kind of experience going down the Amazon. What are your bucket list experiences? Have you had them yet? What is your top travel, want or need in this world? Trish, go first.
Okay. Antarctica would be amazing. Other bucket list places for me would be Iceland. Just sounds so incredible. And Vietnam. Those are kind of the top ones. And as far as the ones that I have experienced, I've been in person to Hawaii a couple of times, and I just think it's one of the most beautiful places on earth. In my career, I've traveled to a lot of places in the Far East, and some of them have just been so spectacular. I've taken little side trips when I've been there to really take advantage of, being in that part of the world. And I went to Bali by myself, which was just stunning. But some of the places that I have experienced with Discover Live have really come up high on my list now. Places that I just never would have thought of, like Tunis, Tunisia, and Ljubljana, Slovenia. They are beautiful, beautiful places, and they are so different. Tunis, Tunisia, if you had asked me what that looked like prior to my experience with Discover Live and going there virtually, I would have described it entirely different than what it is. It's this spectacular white, bright, beautiful, bright blue trimmed buildings, and just incredible marketplaces full of unique items, like the textiles that they make there, like vivid colored textiles.
Yeah.
And it just a very religiously, culturally amazing place that is high on my list now. Never would have been before this virtual experience.
How about you, Jay?
Yeah, my bucket list place is actually in Africa. It's just one of the places I haven't been there in person, and that continent is just full of curiosity, full of wondering that I really want to experience one of those days. And for the places I have been to, no matter through the in-person travel before, leisure travel before, or through the work travel, I like South America, and I just feel like the culture is very open and very warm. And I remember when I was traveling there many years ago for work, I traveled to so many different countries, and I didn't speak any Spanish or Portuguese at the time, but I always had my translator with me. And I just remember the best part of my time, the most of the things that I can remember as of today were actually not the days we had in the office, but the times that we spent after work, playing soccer together in their apartments, going to the bar with their girlfriends and all those things. And learning about all those fascinating the local cultures that is very different from the US, and also very different from the many other countries in the other continents. But I'm also agree with Trisha. Ever since we were able to travel to more, I put a travel in the quote, meaning virtual travel to other parts of the world, a lot more places actually open up to me that I never even imagined. Like one of the examples that I have is Tbilisi in Georgia, the country of Georgia. And it's such a beautiful city, full of characteristics, full of culture. And I never even related to it. I was thinking, as a prior Soviet Union country, maybe the styling is very different compared to some of the other countries in the union, but it's very different. It's very unique, and then it instantly just grabbed my attention and grabbed my interest. And look, that is one of the city that if I would to travel in the future, I would want to go there.
Absolutely. I will say, I've actually had the fortunate opportunity to be in Tbilisi, not long after the war, and they were recovering, but the architecture, the gorgeous, and they've done great work restoring and making sure to hold the feeling of the city. But the people, God, the people were amazing. So I'm kind of building my questions in a specific way. When we all experience travel differently. For me, I like Peggy, I'm a history buff. I love museums. I want to, I will look at that space for my travel, but I want the food. I want to know, not the 5-star Michelin restaurants. I want the greasy spoons. I want the neighborhood pubs. And I want to feel the experience of what it's like, to hang out in whatever city I might be in. What are the travel highlights for you? What do you look for in travel? We'll go Jay and then Trisha this time.
Yeah, it's definitely just like as we said, it's the local vibe. Even like we kind of like basically build that type of experience into our virtual travel experience as well. But just in person, wherever I go, I try to book the Airbnb hotel, places instead of the hotels, just for that reason, so that I can actually live in their neighborhood. I can actually have the locals as my neighbors. So I can go out and say hi to them, and I can try to get into the conversation with them. And many of the locals, the Airbnb hosts, they also could have taken me to the local places that only the locals goes, right? So yep. I really enjoy that type of experience. And during our virtual tour, for example, if there is a restaurant that is along our tour route, we always stop there. We look at the menus together. We talk about the local food. If we were able to go into the restaurant, we go in there. We sit on the table, just to see how the locals experience, their dining environment. Sometimes it's very different, just as if what they have on the table, right? And all those different sauces and dressing and all those different. Then we describe the smells, the ingredients, all those things to the people. So that would be my part of the interesting things that I would really want to get out of every single of my travel experience.
Go ahead, Trish.
Yeah, I mean, I just get excited talking about travel. This conversation has my heart racing a little bit because
mine too.
It's just so fun to think about like all the things that are out there that you can see and experience. For me, I think simply I like to know what makes a place special. So I'm always seeking to understand like what's unique about this place. What are the foods that are unique? What are the spices? We always say at Discover Live that food is history, because you can learn a lot about a place from the food. What is easily accessible? What spices and why? What's grown in abundance and why? Is it seafood because it's close proximity to water? There's so much to learn through food. And then also just learning traditions around food. I find that fascinating. Music, like what are the special types of music that come from this place, new or old? What is it like? How and why? Again, what makes it so special? How did it evolve? How did it get its start? Things like sports, architecture, dialect, anything that makes a place special. That's what I like to discover. For me, it's that kind of compare and contrast and learning more about the world and about people that really helps to put things in perspective, the similarities as well as the differences. So that's the thing that really gets me excited. Like what makes this place tick? Why is it special and for what reasons? And like what Peggy was saying before, like those little tchotchkes and souvenirs, I never realized how much you can learn about a place by going to a little souvenir shop. and
Mhm.
what they bring to the top, right? Because typically it is all those things that makes a place special that becomes part of those little takeaways. And so you can learn a lot from those little tchotchke places. And it's fascinating to me, just seeing and learning all of that.
Yeah, and as Peggy said earlier too, marketplaces,
Yeah.
seeing, local craftsmen and artists and food and people that are raising honey or local vegetable marketplaces are great. But I'm digressing as I'm known to do, and we will get into the accessibility part of the tours in a moment. But like I said, I'm building a bridge, and Jay started this already for me. So how do you take, what people want in a travel experience and present it over Zoom? And that's, it's a tall order, but it seems to me you guys have found a way, maybe not to give us the flavors and the actual smell, so to speak, but snapshots. I'm looking at it as snapshots. How do you build a travel experience and present it through Zoom?
Yeah, Anthony, you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So I think knowing what most people are looking for, those are the types of experiences that we actually build into a virtual tour. Specifically for the audio described tours, for example, as what Peggy mentioned earlier, we got a lot of inputs from the people from the community. And we build those into it. Just before each of the tour, we send out a destination brochure. In the destination brochure, not only we talk about the facts, fun facts about the city and the description of the tours, we also include the recipes for some of the local food and the recipes for some of the local drink. So that in case people wanted to just get additional flavor of the tour and get more immersion from all of it, they can do that. And sound obviously is a very important element of the tour because sound is part of the travel experience, right? Because if you're standing in a different city, it's very different. And we turn on all those sounds, during the tour, and Zoom has a default feature to automatically suppress the noise. We actually totally ignore that. And then focus on the different types of interests. So during each of the tours, we always touch on several elements. We touch on culture, we touch on the food, we touch on the art, we touch on the architecture, we touch on the history. And then because of each of our tours is very interactive, and we limit the number of people who can join the tour. So we also let the audience to drive the tour and the tour guide in terms of where to focus on wherever people's interest is. If they say, I'm really, really interested in the textile of this location. Okay, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the local textile. And, one of the things that we also do for each of our audio described tours is we also include the links for some of the products or some of the things that people can get additional sense. Peggy mentioned about some of the souvenirs. Like if we are to take people to a museum, and we would provide the link for people to actually purchase a replica of this museum, so that they can feel when we're talking about the shape of it. But at the same time, we also include some of the local artifacts. If it's a tile, if it's a textile from Africa, for example, we include a link in there because the texture and the pattern and all those things that we will be talking about during the tour. And if people purchase those ahead of time, they can actually go along with us and feel it and to be really have a better understanding about what that is. So I think those are some of, and obviously music is a big thing. Language is a big thing. We always try to teach people a little bit about the local language, as simple as how to say hello and how to say thank you and how to say bye. And if we do have music that is very local, we include a pre-recorded segment of the music that we actually play during the tour as well.
Wow. Trisha, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would love to. I think Jay just gave a great description of the how. And then to add to that and provide a little bit of the behind the scenes, we look at each and every tour as like a Broadway production. And so when we develop the tours in partnership with our amazing tour guides, we look at it as a really interesting starting point, a very interesting middle point, and then a powerful close. So there's kind of this flow throughout. And then in between those three high points, all of the other things that you see, experience, smell, touch along the way, so that the streets kind of come to life in between. It may not be as powerful as those 3 points, start, middle, and end, but it's still really interesting. It's this whole idea of immersion. We kind of look at it as a mini vacation. So if you're taking a little mini vacation and you're going to experience this place, how do you immerse yourself in all of that? And our tour guides, many of whom have advanced degrees in history, they're certified, they're licensed. We rely on them to really share with us about what we talked about earlier, what makes this place so special, and how do we bring that to life in a 60-minute tour. So that partnership of kind of creating that tour outline is really the behind the scenes before it, gets in front of our customers, to just make sure that it has all of those elements that make it really interesting. I did a college internship at Disney, which is laughable now when I think about it, but it was really powerful because we had to attend, Disney University. And what you learn there is on stage is on stage. And it doesn't matter if it's casual and you're chatting, but you're still on stage. And that goes for us, the host, the Discover Live person, as well as our guides. So there is a professionalism around all of it, despite the fact that what we're really looking to achieve is this kind of casual conversation. You want to feel like you're right there walking next to our guide, and that's the objective that we hold for them. But, it's a stage, and we treat it as such.
So we have a tour guide with us, and we're going to bring him on stage in a few minutes. And we heard from Peggy from the beta perspective, and being, one of the people who gave the information and the things that we'd be looking for as a community. Playing around with my timeline, I believe it was about 5 years into when you started looking at how to then translate this for the blind and visually impaired community. It's sort of a threefold question. My question is, was that a natural progression, or was there something that happened that made you want to, move up into that space as well? And from, we heard Peggy's perspective, from the behind the scenes perspective, how did you really build it and, to where we are now?
Yeah. I would say it's more of a natural progression, but the timing when it happened is triggered by a special event. So as a company, our mission is to make the work travel experience as successful as possible. So innovation is a big part of what we do. When we first started, our company was a VR company. Partly because of, I'm a trained engineer, and I'm always into those high technologies. But
so for our audience, VR, you mean virtual reality?
Virtual realities. Thank you,
Okay.
Anthony. Yes, thank you. But what I wanted to do and what the market wants are always different to me. So we find out very quickly because at that time our sole customer base were seniors and the people living in senior living communities. Just from the technology standpoint, the virtual reality was just not that accessible. So the first innovation was actually relatively easy because we actually innovated us back to the much simpler platform. So at that time, we were using Skype before Zoom actually came up. But then last year, well, actually 2 years ago, we introduced a technology that we actually allow each one of our audiences to be able to interact with our tour guide in their own language, no matter what language they speak and no matter in what accent that they have. And that is, the reason why was because we did a study in terms of what prevents people travel. And what we found out was there were several reasons. Financial reasons a big one, health reason, and the time reason, and the fear of a different culture, the fear of not knowing the language. Some people also concerned about the hospitals, the medical facilities. And just like what Peggy was saying, many times it was just people couldn't find another person to go along with. So knowing those obstacles, what our mission was trying to figure out ways to take out those obstacles. So we started with Skype, but when Zoom came up and when Zoom started to spread, across the world like a fire because of how easy it is being used, we switched to Zoom. And then we introduced this language technology to take down the barrier of the language. And then, we're always looking at, what other things we can do for the people who have hearing impairment. We always turn on the closed caption so that people can actually, see what's happening. But for the people in the blind and the low vision community, we couldn't figure out how to break this barrier. And just happened to be 2 years ago when I was connected with Tammy Russo, who is the CEO of Missy Kit, and we were both in the senior living group on LinkedIn. And so we were connected with each other, and I was supporting her, and she was supporting me. And then I know what she was doing. She basically had a quilt group specifically for the blind and the memory impaired people. So when I was talking to her, and she mentioned to me, and I say, hey, my company is doing this, and I think her mom also had the vision impairment. And she was basically saying that, is there any way that you guys can bring the virtual travel experience to the blind community? So that's actually how everything started. We actually had a few meetings specifically talking about the subject and then talking about the obstacles and the challenges, and thinking about how we can change our product to be more adaptive to this community. But that's kind of like, how everything started. And then Tammy actually helped to pull together some of the members in the blind and low vision community to be able to have the very first meeting that we had together. And since then until now, a lot of things happened. The program is much more robust from just some ideas, and we were able to develop a system to specially train our tour guide. And also, we got much more knowledge and insights in terms of what the people in the community are looking for and how can we best satisfy them. But at the same time, I also realized, it's a progression, right? We are nowhere near perfect. There are still a lot of things that we can and we should learn, and that's going to be the exciting journey that we'll be heading to.
So Trisha, how many, of course, all the tours that you currently offer aren't audio described as of yet, or don't have the audio described feature yet. How many tours are available for the community, and what do you project in, let's say, the next year and 5 years? By the 5-year mark, will all of the tours have this option? Where are you in that process?
Yes, great question. So right now we have 7 to 10 tours that are available for audio described purposes. And it really was just kind of a sampling that we put together, diverse so that it's covering a lot of different areas and different types of tours, but really wanted to get it right before we took this more broadly. And so these are the tours that we've been putting a lot of energy into. But we already have started adding new ones. And so to your point, we hope that within a year to two, we will be able to offer the majority of our tours as audio described. So, there's a few technical things that go into them. One of them is obviously the actual background noise. Some places are not really appropriate for that because it's almost too loud. But places where the background audio really adds to the experience, which is the majority of our tours, that's where the focus will be. So our plan is to have almost all of our tours be accessible as an audio described, verbally described tour.
So let's introduce Pedro. Pedro, welcome to Sunday Edition. Thank you so much for taking time today to be with us. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to be with Discovery Live, and I'll follow up with some more questions after that.
Hi, Anthony. Hi, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. So, for those who doesn't know me, I am from Brazil. I'm 5.6 feet high. I'm white. I'm 36. I have brown short hair and brown eyes. And I'm a professional tour guide here in Brazil. And I saw Discover Live, the website, and I thought that was like a great opportunity. I sent them an email and then we start talking and working together, which is incredible. And I thank you guys very much for this opportunity, which is incredible.
So, sidebar question, I just have to ask: were you able to go to Copacabana and see Madonna 2 weeks ago?
I live very close to Rio. I actually lived in Rio in the past. I already lived in 11 cities and I lived also in 3 countries. But now I'm in the countryside. So I'm like 2 hours driving from Rio de Janeiro. But I didn't go to see Madonna. I didn't have time.
It's okay. So talk to us from the tour guide perspective. What is it a tour for you? The preparation stage, the actual 60 minutes, and is there any follow-up afterwards with the tour participants?
First of all, I have to study where the tour is going to be and get ready with all the vocabulary and everything and to tell about the description of the places. And I've during this time, I've been studying a lot about the blind and low vision community. And I found out that here in Brazil, we have more than 6 million people in this community. So I'm pretty excited because I think it's very good to be able to deliver this opportunity for as inclusion to everyone so people can visit the places with me, which is incredible.
How do you juggle, having 30 or so people in a tour and wanting different information?
For me, it's very nice because I have the opportunity to tell them about the local food and how the people are dressed and everything. So I think it's pretty fun. I get very anxious before it, but during it, it's very relaxing and it's very, very nice.
What's one of the most interesting questions someone's asked during a tour?
Oh, people ask about how the buildings look like, about the Brazilian flag, and also about food. Normally, people are very curious to know about food here in Brazil, and I think that's very curious because food here it's different, and we have many foods here that we don't have in other places. So to describe food, it's always very nice and very exciting.
Pedro, is there anything that someone has asked you that you thought has been really kind of interesting or a little outrageous? Anything noteworthy?
I think it's funny because people sometimes they ask if we speak Spanish here. Most of people they really think that we speak Spanish here in Brazil, but we speak Portuguese, and I try to teach them like new words or some words, and it's always nice because I think it's a great opportunity to let people know more about my country, and this is very exciting.
Awesome. Peggy, do you have any questions for Pedro? Peggy may be multitasking. Pedro, stick around because we're going to open it up to the audience. There may be some questions from our audience members for you as a tour guide. The last question I have for you specifically is, so we've spoken about, having some training. Is there anything that's for audio describing to the blind and low vision community? Is there anything that surprised you or that made you nervous and now you're sort of like, oh, now it's old hat?
Yes, like I didn't know about like how big this community is, and when I got introduced to this industry, I thought this was like very exciting, and I think that it's very important when describing something not to give like personal information or like personal opinion. So try to keep it like just like describe what you see and let people try to realize that and have that perspective. I think that's very important.
Awesome. So back to you, Jay and Trish. Now walk us through the actual experience. How does someone find the website? How do we book a tour? Where would we find the actual ones that are audio described right now? And of course, talk to us about preparation cost and give us the rundown. Let's say if I'm going to the website right now, what does it look like for me when do I get my experience? How do I prepare for it? All those things. Whoever wants to go first, feel free.
Yeah, I can go first, Anthony. So just to book our tours, the very first thing is just to get onto our web page specifically for the audio described tours, and our company name is Discover Live. So our website is discover.live. It's LIVE, and then / audio described tours as one word. So it's discover.live / audio described tours. That's basically brings the audience directly into that website. And on the website, there are just very simple segments. One is a journey with your ears, kind of like you give an overview of the audio described tours. And then there's a one paragraph about us. And then right below that is the upcoming tours. Usually at this moment, we're introducing 2 tours on 2 days, one tour every, 2 tours actually every month in 2 different days. And on the calendar, people just need to click the button of book tour, and then it'll get into another web page for them to put in their information, the names, emails, and all those things. And then they pay for it. That's it. Once they pay for it, they will receive an automatic email from us, basically providing a confirmation with a Zoom link attached to it. The cost of the tour is $49 per person per tour. And those tours are group tours. So this person will be able to join the tour together with other attendees. And as what we mentioned earlier, we cap each tour at 30 people. So once the maximum allowed people is achieved, we basically just open up another session in the same month. So that's kind of like the process of ordering the tours, and we just try to make it as simple as possible.
And so you had spoken to us earlier about drink recipes, food recipes, ancillary information. Does that come to us before we experience the tour so that we can gather ingredients? How is that part, that part of the process? How do we prepare ourselves for the actual day or night of the tour?
Yes. So as soon as you book the tour, there will be an automatic confirmation email sent back. And in that email, we include the Zoom link as well as an attachment for the destination brochure with all those information included.
I'm curious, and we didn't get to this in our preliminary conversations. how do we deal with different time zones? And being able to experience, are there tours that may end up having, being at 3 o'clock in the morning for us here in the States?
Yes, it's a very, very good question, Anthony. As a matter of fact, we also have the same issue, even in our regular virtual tours. But there are several ways that we actually use to address this issue. Some of the tours that we have, because of the time difference, we pre-record those, but then we have the tour guide to live narrate. But those are ones that mainly showing the sound and all those things, so that and also we use a lot of pictures. So during those tours, our tour guide also describe what are the pictures that he or she was able to take earlier in the day for the tour as well. But specifically for the audio described tours program at this moment, we purposely didn't put in the locations where we have the time difference challenge. So the tours that we have right now, those are in pretty much either in Europe or in South America or in the US or Canada, that regular people can just join those during the normal working hours or the day hours.
Trish, what are the most popular tours? And are those part of the audio or being looked at, for our community?
Yes. So the most popular tours, you would think that they would be those traditional big locations like Rome and Paris. But interestingly, we find a lot of people gravitating to the smaller locations. And there's also a seasonality to this too. So during the winter season, the holiday season, we do holiday markets from around the world. And so obviously during November and December, those are the most interesting tours. During the pandemic, one of the most popular tours was a Vietnam marketplace tour. So speaking about marketplaces before, like Peggy mentioned, that was a surprise to us too. So there is a little bit of regularity with what we see, but seasons kind of change and dictate what's the most popular. And yes, as I mentioned, we do try to bring in a very diverse offering with the audio described tours, and we'll be building on that in the months and years to come. So we want to and expect to offer all of those types of experiences within the audio described portfolio, as well as other tours that we're developing. We develop a lot of cultural tours, and so we want to have those involved too. So we'll follow the lead with what the market is telling us, and then make sure that we've got offerings within audio described.
So follow up to that, you had said Rome and places like that. I would imagine that there must be a market for things like, the Egyptian pyramids, the Colosseum, the canal, the Panama Canal. Are you doing specific curated tours for tourist sites at all?
We certainly are. So we have some of the wonders of the world tours. You mentioned one of them, the pyramids. That's always popular. People are so interested in that. And I think that has a lot to do too with people expecting not to ever visit in person. That's a big trip. And so when you can go and have an expert, our guides from Egypt, some are Egyptologists. So you're speaking to an expert and you've got this personalized experience. It's almost better than kind of managing what travel to those places, the pyramids and Giza. It can be a little daunting. So that's one. Machu Picchu is another. We go to like the rainforests in Costa Rica, Banff National Park. So many places that are popular and some a little less known, but offering really distinct experiences. So it's not just those big, like I mentioned before, Rome and Paris are the two that always come to mind. So it's a real diverse offering, trying to appeal to many different types of interests.
That
Yeah,
is
one
that. Oh, go ahead,
um
Jay.
definitely, yeah, I just want to add on one thing, which is the cultural diversity type of tours. I just want to give an example. Like if we would take a group of people to India, many people they probably want to see the Taj Mahal just because you know it's one of the bucket list item places for a lot of people.
Siggy, make an announcement.
Absolutely. Sorry,
Be
go
up
on.
until 3 or a little after.
Diane, you're not muted. Go
No
ahead, Jay.
problem at all. Yeah, but if we take, because we also do a lot of the corporate tours. So if we take a group of employees to India, very likely in the same city, we actually take
No.
people to the slums, to their neighborhoods, to the place of worship, to the local markets, so that people can experience the everyday life there. So depend on, I think this is the wonderful part of work travel. Depend on the objectives, even in the same city, there can be different types of tours for the different audience.
That's awesome. And I'm a sort of marketing idea kind of person by nature. Are you working towards at some point, having specific curated tours for, for groups that once, you mentioned the Taj Mahal, we talked about Giza. Will you at some point get to curated tours for specific groups?
Absolutely. We actually do that quite often. If you look at one of the, well, actually, yeah, an element of our tour, we call it private tours on our website. The very first tour on that web page is actually what they call a pre-consultation tour. It's very likely when people want to go somewhere, but they're not sure yet. We take them on the street for an hour. And during that tour, they can not only experience the locals, but also they can ask a lot of questions to our tour guides. But specifically for the audio described tours, because our tour guides are trained for audio description, if the audience taking the virtual tour, they say, okay, now actually I'm interested in going there next time, and they like the tour guide, our tour guide can actually do the on-the-ground curated in-person tour as well, just because they already have the skill sets,
Nice.
to host this type of tours.
So in that vein, then, sorry, train of thought for a moment. So in that vein, as as it's a group of 30 people, and we're looking at, the experiential, is there any follow-up, or, are there resources that are given afterwards? Or, is there any follow-up to the experience itself?
Yeah, so at this moment, because we just started, we don't have yet, but the phase 2 of this program, once we see the program expanding a little bit, one thing that we want to start building is a community. So basically, there are different types of audiences. They have different kind of interests for different types of tours. And we would like to have the people who are bonded with the same interest to be able to communicate and collaborate and connect and communicate with each other. And then for them to actually come back to us even later time and say, hey, this is our vote for the future tours that we would like you to develop following this interest. Every year, we do a vote for all of our customers in the different categories of industry that we play. And we use that as our guideline to develop the future tours. So I totally see this will happen as well.
So I'm going to switch gears for a moment. And folks who have some questions, please come. If you're listening on ACB Media right now, please come on into the room. It's the same Sunday edition link every week. So just grab one of the links and join us. Clubhouse and those folks that are here with us. If you have questions, you can start putting your hands up. But we've spoken with Pedro, and you've spoken about subject matter experts being some of the tour guides. Besides hiring the local tour guides, is there anything else you do to get back to the communities that you're, or the countries and locations that you're, providing tours for?
Yeah, several things that we are already planning and we're we were already planning. So first of all, a portion of our revenue from this program, we would like to donate to a meaningful organization. And also, there's two other things we would like to do. One is at some point, we would like to hire blind tour guides. We would also like to hire a manager to manage this program who is also a blind person. Just because, we think that, as sighted people, myself and the majority of our teams, it's not a true representation of what the community needs are. And those are some of the things that we are planning. Once the program actually takes off and we think that we have enough funding that is available, we want to start doing those.
And I'll just add one thing. As far as the local communities are concerned, we also post links to different authentic goods. So when we do these tours and there's interest in some of the, like we talked about textiles and spices, we will post links so that people can access those things and give business to some of these local, smaller business owners.
That's what I was driving towards. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got it. Sorry.
It's such a cool thing. I mean, honestly, Anthony, it was funny. We just did a tour last week in Ravenna, Italy. And again, you talk about those places in Italy that are so well known. Everyone knows Venice, everyone knows Rome. Many people know Florence and Tuscany. But Ravenna is like this hidden gem. To people who have been there, it's not hidden at all. But most people don't make the trip there. And so we were doing a tour, and our guide just started sharing her knowledge of local craftsmanship. And there was so much interest from the audience that she shared so much more than I even knew she knew. And several of the things were homemade, handmade goods that you can only find in this part of Italy. And they came out of necessity from hundreds of years ago. And it's like this printed cloth that they do, completely machine washable. It was really phenomenal, beautiful tablecloths and all these different accent pieces. And so, of course, we very quickly after that got the permission to use the company's name and to share the links, because those are the kind of things that people love to take away, those really authentic, amazing goods. So we do that too as a way to help the local communities.
That is awesome. I want to throw one more out to Pedro. So Pedro, you are currently doing audio described tours. Do sell your tour to our audience.
Okay, of course.
The pressure's on, Pedro.
Yes, the pressure's on. Oh my gosh. So it's very nice. I like to have this opportunity, and I would like everyone to be part of it. So if you have been to Brazil or if you haven't been to Brazil, this is a great opportunity, and I will be very glad to show you around. My hometown, it's very small. It's in the countryside, so it's beautiful, and I love to talk about it. I like to describe like everything that I see when I'm walking downtown, when I have the opportunity to talk about like the architecture, the food, and our language, our culture. So it will be my pleasure to be able to show you around.
Pedro, if I may, what are some of the things that makes your town special?
Oh, yes, of course. Because Bananal was one of the most richest place in Brazil, like in the past. Actually, we are located in a very nice area because we are between Rio and São Paulo. So lots of people come to Brazil and they visit Rio or they visit São Paulo, but they normally don't come here. So Bananal, it was very famous in the past because it was very wealthy. And the region became truly immense during the coffee plantation in the 19th century, when the city was one of the most prosperous in productions. And Bananal also Bananal Financial's power was great at that time, that Bananal became a sponsor of a loan from England to Brazil. And this place is beautiful. I love being here. the nature and everything, like all the houses, the old houses that we have here, it's very unique. Like the streets are very beautiful. The streets here are very old. It is all the streets here are made of cobblestone, so it's very nice. And you guys need to take this tour and have the opportunity to join me.
So I've got one more follow-up for you, Pedro. Have you taken a tour, a virtual tour that, you know, you never would have been able to experience in person, and what was that like for you?
Oh, I didn't have that opportunity, but I would like to have it. So I'll probably book my tour and I will do it for sure.
What would be your bucket list? What place in the world do you really want to see?
Oh, Japan, definitely. I would love to go to visit Tokyo or some places like that. I worked at Disney in the past, so I am kind of Disney freak. So I love Orlando. I think Orlando it's amazing. So I always want to go back to Orlando. But like if I have the opportunity to go to other countries, Japan would be like a nice country to visit as well.
Also, there's, you know, they have Disney there too.
Yes, of course. When I went to Paris, of course, I went to Disney there too. So it's always good to go to Disney and go to other places as well.
All right, I just have to ask. People will kick me if I don't. Who's your favorite Disney princess?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think Cinderella, she's very nice. I like Cinderella, but I worked a lot with Belle and the Beast, so I have to say Belle as well.
I'm an Ariel boy myself, but I absolutely respect your choices. Trish, do you have a favorite Disney princess?
You know, it's funny. I'm a Snow White person, but is she actually considered a princess? No, right?
In their merchandising, she is, but
okay, yeah, she's my kind of girl.
Gotcha. Jay, do you have one?
You know, quite honestly, I was thinking about a Snow White as well. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of that's the, you know, the show and the movie that I watch the most, and then once I grow up a little bit, I don't watch too many of those Disney shows anymore. So yeah, definitely Snow White.
Gotcha. All right, so we're gonna open it up to our audience. Diane, two questions. First question: has Nancy come in?
I haven't seen her yet.
Okay, who do we have up first?
Jane T is first.
All right, welcome back to Sunday Edition, Ms. Jane.
I'm more than I've got my go bag by the door. Pedro, I'm walking with you. I'll take your left arm, please. Let's do it. I happen to be traveling right now with my daughter out in the Pacific Northwest. I have traveled internationally. I will never get crawling through marketplaces in Turkey looking with my hands at textured carpets, and there are still some hanging now in our daughter's home. I want to recommend a Connect Up for you, first of all, and a couple of suggestions. If you are not familiar with Mobility International USA, otherwise known as MIUSA, do look them up. They have a fabulous, increasingly interesting and valuable program whereby families host disabled travelers, and disabled travelers in this country or other families host people from other places in the world. They might be a solid Connect Up for you in terms of getting additional information or offering useful, helpful. I'm excited about your virtual tours. One other suggestion I have about follow-up is that you create a list that maybe travelers contribute to of books or reading that they have done about particular places that have connected them solidly to the trip. One landmark statement in my family is, okay, this country's got to prove to me that we're not in a Walmart parking lot. And I will never forget landing in Geneva, Switzerland, and I heard bells. I am a bell collector in the airport, and I go, What is that
Yes.
about? And I had to zoom over and ask, and they said, we're welcoming home someone who's been away for a long time. And they do it with bells. And I'm going, oh, I'm coming home, ring them, so I'm thrilled to death about your opportunities. And I'll shut my mouth now and listen, but I will get on your lists, all of them, wherever I can find them. And Anthony, quit coming up with all the best questions. You do a great job.
Thank
So
you.
Trish and Jay, thank you for your information. And Pedro, I'm walking with you. See you later at the dock or the
Thank you
airport.
thank
you,
you so
Jane.
much, Jane. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
definitely, look up the, the organizations that you mentioned as well.
I have to say I'm really I like the suggestion about a reading list as well. Maybe even with that first email, curating a book or two, either an immersive fiction experience that kind of mimics life in that space, or historical reference piece that folks can immerse themselves in before the tour as well. I think that would be amazing. I don't know if you guys can work that in or not.
It's a
But
great
Yeah,
idea.
great idea. As a matter of fact, I think, Jane, this is an idea that not only for the audio described tours, and I'm also thinking of just for our general virtual tours, it can be super, super helpful as well. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
I want to touch on something that Jane said too. And Trish and Jay, I wonder if this is your experience. I have found, that for the most part, there's no, 100% anywhere, but for the most part, other countries, especially marketplaces and local souvenir shops and artist stands and things, they are so much more gracious with allowing us to touch, to experience, to feel, to reach in and smell. I walking around markets in Turkey. I'm only blind 8 years. I remember being able to just touch everything, taste little samples. It's definitely a lot less likely here in the States than it is abroad. Do you find that to be your experience as well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Trisha, do you want to go first? Yeah,
Yeah,
Trisha, please.
I do. And I don't know the reason for that. I'd love to get your kind of thoughts around why, but that is my experience as well, both in person and even a little bit, what we see with our virtual tours.
Yeah, I feel like when we were doing the holiday market tours in December, and that's pretty much what people are booking our tours for. And although during those tours, we may not have the smell, but for example, a lot of the countries, they sell the water chestnuts, right? And
Yeah.
So during the tour, we would just describe like, oh, this is what they're doing, and we stand there, and then we kind of like, do the tour in a way that we can encourage people to imagine what that atmosphere looks like. And but just to your point, I mean, the marketplace is just one of those fascinating places because that's where you feel you're the closest to the locals, right?
Yeah, that's where life really happens. Absolutely. All right, Dan, who is up next?
Next is Diana.
Welcome, Diana.
Hello.
Hi, Diana.
This is just fascinating. I was wondering, I have two questions. For those of us that are just extremely low vision, I mean, we are legally blind, but extremely low vision, when you have the audio described, is it also where you can see visually?
Yes.
Okay.
There are two reasons for that. Diana, one is I know some of the screen readers, they may be able to describe, what's on the screen. But most importantly is also, we would like to have the travel experience, not just, if you have a friend, if you have a family member, if you have, kids or grandkids, they are sighted, we actually encourage them to take the travel experience together with you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we do, yes, to answer your question.
Okay, great. And then my other question was about destinations. There's one foreign destination I would love to have a tour of, and that's the Scottish. But also, I have another. Actually, it's a two-part question. Would be the Scottish Highlands, the castles, and things like that. Do you have one for that?
I would like to have actually Trisha.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you mind to answer this question?
I would not mind at all. We absolutely do. So we have a tour right now of Edinburgh, and we go to the castle. In fact, most recently, we've started at one of the castles out by the sea. And then we are just adding a Highlands tour, Scotland Highlands. And so that's something that's in development right now. But yes, happy to tell you that we visit castles in Scotland and also Ireland. We have several locations in Ireland that we cover, many of which include castles like Kilkenny, Killarney, well, really almost every Irish place, Ireland destination, there's castles involved. So yes, Diana,
That's
we
awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome.
I just want to thank you, Trisha. Just want to let you know, Diana, like those are the tours that in our regular virtual tour offering. We do not have those tours in our audio describer tour offering yet, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we won't include those in the next phase of introduction of the new tours.
Great, great. And then the final part of that last question was there's a lot of foreign destinations and things, but do you ever consider doing anything domestically here in the United States? Like, for example, the Amish country in Ohio and Pennsylvania with all the craftsmen. I mean, they have like woodworkers and, quilting and things like that. And also like the American Southwest with Native American culture and Grand Canyon and things like that.
Yeah. So, Dan, we offer tours. We do have domestic tours, not as many as what we have, outside of the country. And the one thing that is important for us to be able to introduce the tour is the internet. So as long as the national parks or Amish counties that we can get an internet signal, it is a possibility for us to develop those in the future. At this moment, we do not. We have the tours in major cities like New York, Chicago, Louisiana,
Right.
Washington D.C., and all those different places. We do have some of the national parks, but not as many as what we have in outside of the U.S.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a big focus for us, Diana. It's interesting because initially there was so much interest in international destinations, and
I can understand
recently-
that. Yeah.
Right, but recently there's been so much more interest in U.S. destinations. It's really kind of phenomenal over the last couple of years, almost post-pandemic. So we are focusing there, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we are developing a tour in Navajo County. So you asked about, the Northwest and
The
Native
Southwest.
American. So
Right.
we do have that in development.
Awesome. Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, both. You both.
Thank you,
both.
Diana.
Yeah, thank you, Diana.
Thank you, Diana. And I think I can guess what probably your favorite genre of reading is.
Possibly.
All right. All right, Diane, who do we have next?
We have a phone number, area code 407, ending in 768.
Speaking of Orlando, who do we have from Orlando right now?
Hi, I'm Shirley. How are you today?
Hi, Shirley. Welcome to Sunday Edition.
I got kind of interrupted a little bit by a phone call, and I think you may have mentioned one thing I missed. I don't know if you mentioned what the average cost is for one of these tours, and also about how long each of them run. What the time period is that they run, and do you get like an option on a couple of different times, or is there one set time that you run each one that we would have to sign up for?
Yeah, so let me answer that question, Lisa. No worries at all. So our for each tour, we charge $49 per person per tour, and each tour is 60 minutes. At this moment, we basically publish the tours on a calendar on our website. And so if you wanted to take that tour, you just need to book that tour, and that tour is going to happen on that particular day and the time that we put on the calendar. But
And does
different
it
tour.
say which ones are described when we look at your site?
Yeah, if you go to discover.live and a backslash audio described tours as one word, all the tours on there are audio described tours.
Okay, and I guess one more quick thing. You talked about the fact that you could have a sighted person, like if you have a grandkid or whatever, be on there and listen with you or whatever. If my husband wanted to watch it at the same time or whatever, is there an additional charge, or would we both be able to do it for the one price together?
Yeah, so we charge $49 per screen. So as long as your husband is watching the tour together with you, then it's not an issue at all. If your husband is joining from another location, another screen, then there will be another $49.
Another how much, sir? I'm sorry.
No problem. Another $49.
Okay, and can you give me the website again, please, one more time?
Sure, no problem. So it's discover.live. It's LIVE / audio described tours. One word.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, and this sounds quite fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley.
And thank you, Anthony.
Absolutely. You know, as Shirley was asking her questions, my youngest nephew is about to turn 12, and he has designated himself my personal audio describer whenever we're together. And I'm thinking even the tours that aren't audio described at the moment, you know, some of the destinations I want to experience, it's a fun activity to do with him. And maybe there are folks out there listening today that what a great experience it would be to, you know, to do it with someone that can describe for you while, you know, experiencing it together. All right, Diane, who's up next?
Lisa Brooks.
Oh, welcome back to Sunday Edition, Lisa.
Hi, everybody. This is really a cool call. We didn't know about your company until today. And my husband is also visually impaired, and we were talking about turning this into a date night and maybe ordering some dinner from a restaurant that has the same type of food that, you know, of whatever tour that we would pick.
I love it.
So I don't know
Nice.
if people have done that in the past, but we kind of thought. So I'm on your
Yes.
website right now.
Yeah, no.
looking at what's available. So, you know, it'd be great if you had some, I know the time differences, but maybe some stuff in the later afternoon or evenings. And also just as a request for a future audio described tour, if it's not in the planning, it would be cool to go to the Philippines. So thank you. That's all.
Oh, that's great. Lisa, we've
Thank
actually
you.
had proposals happen the way you just described, where, you know, someone plans a great destination, they order food from that destination, and they propose over the tour. So we love that. That's the whole idea of an immersive experience, is bringing in all of these things that make it so much more meaningful. So that would be great, and we would be honored to host you and your husband someday soon.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
And
cool.
Lisa,
Well-
as a matter of fact, you know, some of the tours is being used as an anniversary celebration as well. People either go to, like, you know, the places where they used to date, or, you know, it's just a romantic place they have never been to, like in Paris, for example. So yes, to your question.
Awesome.
Well,
Thank
you know what, Lisa, you just inspired me, so I'm going to ask, do you have a tour of the wine country in France?
Yeah, we actually have toured in Nice and Old Nice. And some of the tours that, you know, some of the tours that we offer, not in this program yet, but, you know, I'm sure it will be in the future. But in our regular virtual tour program, we actually also have like a half of the hour is like a sommelier talking about the tour, and then the other half of the hour actually visit the place.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, Lisa, you just got a date night for me and Gabriel. Thank you for that. All right, Diane, who's up next?
We have no more raised hands, Anthony.
Nancy, if you have come into the room under a different name or number, throw your hand up, and I will throw out Clubhouse. You know, Holly is there waiting to put you up on the stage if you have any questions. Peggy, are you still with us? All right, Peggy might be multitasking.
We do have another raised hand now, by the way.
All right, let's go for it.
Hi, Anthony. I am still here. Sorry, I was muted.
All right, so let's take the hand, and then I'll go back to Peggy.
Okay. Dr. Lynn Corral.
Hi.
Welcome back, Lynn.
Yeah, very interested in this. My son and I were just talking about it. We're going on a cruise, not a walking tour, in 2025 March. And you know, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to Japan, and I don't know if I want to go to Antarctica. Sorry about that, Anthony. But he said, "Where do you really want to go?" You know, because I was thinking about the Mediterranean. No. Where do you really want to go, Mom? So, you know, for my graduate degree and stuff like so, we're going to go to Japan for an 11-day cruise. But I'm sure you don't work with cruises, but the virtual thing sounds amazing, and I assume there's a cost to go to some of these places like Machu Picchu and all that stuff virtually. Can you talk about that? Thank you very much, Jay and Trish and Pedro.
Yeah, no problem, Dr. Corral. A great question. So yeah, we do go to some of the places that the cruise ship stops, like Dubrovnik, for example. And we do have tour on top of the Machu Picchu. You know, just you know, as what we talked about earlier, we're slowly introducing the new tours into the lineup of the audio descriptive tours. At this moment, it's not included in there yet, but I'm sure in the next few months or next few years, you know, we want to cover as many destinations as possible, as what Tricia was talking about. At this moment, for our regular virtual tour, for the sighted, you know, for sighted people, we cover more than 200 destinations.
Wow.
So I think, you know, just to answer your question, that will be in the lineup at some point in the future.
Yeah, because most of the things I want to do is like go to the hot springs and stuff you can't do on a virtual tour, or you know, see what the music is, like you know Japanese music, and that's what I like to do when I'm traveling, or just walking and hearing people talking, and you know, going on their conveyances, or you know, doing things like that when I've traveled abroad.
Yeah. So the virtual tour for the sighted people, we actually have two different types of tour. One is the group tour, similar to what we're introducing to the audio described tour, and one is the private tour. The private tour is basically have a lot of flexibility, not only from the content standpoint, but also from the time and the day the standpoint. So for example, 2 weeks ago, we took a group of college professors and students to basically attending the Tokyo Earth Day Festival.
Oh man, yeah, we're actually we're starting in Yokohama is where the port is. Yeah.
Got it. Yes. So I think at this moment, you actually, you know, inspired us to think about, you know, the timing for us to introduce like the private tours. The private tour obviously is more expensive than the, you know, the group tours that we have. But you know, because of the infrastructure that we built, we have the tour guides, we have the necessary skill sets, and you know, I'm sure at some point we will be introducing the private tour as well.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very interested in your audio described stuff, and if you could talk about how much that is, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Yes. So for the group tour, for the group tour, audio described tours, right now it's $49 per person per tour. And obviously the private tour, we don't have that yet, so we don't have a pricing for that yet.
Okay. We do have
Any
another
other hands?
raised. Yes.
Awesome.
Diana is back.
All right, Diana.
When you mentioned the group tours, I just got to thinking, and it's normally 30 people, is if you go ahead and go online and pay for it for a tour, what if there's not 30 people? Do you still have it if you only have 5 people, or how does that work?
Yes. Even if we just have one person, we will still have the tour. You know, because we know it takes time for us to you know, ramp up the program, and So we, if we publish a tour on that day, and I mean, even if we have one person show up, we still have the tour. If nobody shows up, then we may cancel the tour.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and yeah, no problem. And one thing I just want to add on to a little bit as well, which is for each of the tour, we usually have at least the two people managing that tour. One is the host, one is the tour guide. Obviously, the tour guide, delivering the content, and the tour host is the making sure that the tour is going as smooth as possible.
That's great. That's great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Good questions.
So we all know that life happens as it happens. If you do register and pay for a tour and something comes up a few days before or even the day before, is there a reschedule policy?
Yeah, so there are two. So if the tour guide book the tour and the tour guide is not able to do the tour anymore, there is a refund policy. If the tour we have to reschedule a tour because of the reasons we cannot control. For example, if there is a storm that has started to affect our tour guide safety, we would reschedule that tour to another day in a month.
But what about an individual that books a tour? If, God forbid, something happens in their life, is there a 5-day, 3-day? Is there a way for, to either reschedule or get refunded?
Yeah, no, refund is the option because at this moment, Anthony, those are group tours. So once we book those on the calendar, even if that individual cannot make it, all the other individuals will still want to have the tour. So yeah, we do provide a refund policy, but not a rescheduling policy for that in that situation.
You can always try again and hope it comes back on the calendar at some point.
Absolutely.
Diane, did any other hands come up?
No, sir.
So Peggy, you were part of the beta process and you've been listening to our conversation for the last, almost 2 hours now. How does it feel that, something you worked on is now happening live and over the next couple of years, all the tours are going to be audio described? And, having listened, are there any questions or suggestions that you have for Jay and Trish based on our conversation?
Well, it is very exciting. I really do want to see this grow, and and I'd like to see our community, get the word out more. Which I'm so happy that I think I sent out the brochure that Jay sent to the ACB conversation list, and then I think you contacted him, which was great, and I think this show is great. But I really would like to see our community do a better job at sort of talking up and advertising, because I think so many people could really benefit from it. I love Lisa's idea of the date night. I hadn't even thought about something like that, but I think that's an awesome idea. I think that sounds like a lot of fun. Make a thing out of it, and yeah, I would agree that, the ability to kind of find out about like textiles and music and, spices. I mean, I'll never forget like the first time I went to Grenada in the Caribbean and got some fresh nutmeg and compared it to what you get in the jar, things like that. You just can't imagine the difference. So all of those things really play into it, but I think that we can kind of supplement some of these with some of those things and, make it a more well-rounded experience for those of us who can't get there in person, and as I get older and I have a bad ankle right now. So even when I do travel in person, it's like, oh, I don't want to walk that far, but anyway, so
I don't want to go up and down the steps of that bus one more time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jay and Trish, we're in the middle of what we call our convention season. We have a yearly convention. Maybe next year, you can join us in Dallas as, in our exhibit booth, and be able to bring information to our convention, or maybe we can do another one of these calls in a couple of months when you have more tours available on the audio describe side. Diane, let me just check. Any hands?
No, sir.
So I was saving this to use as filler for the end. Unfortunately, I think Nancy was traveling today and there were delays. She thought she would make it by the last half hour of the call. I am guessing that there were further delays. So I saved this just to make sure that I had some, some more questions to ask. You've talked a bit about the training of the agents. Without giving away any industry secrets, can you tell us what the training process is like for the agents and maybe where you source your training materials from?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's actually it's not even a secret because I asked the industry and I asked the community for the blind and low vision. I think the community itself has already have a lot of important and a very educational material that is posted online. We follow the guidelines, the description key guidelines published by DCMP. Um, and for each one of the tour guides, we're not there yet, but eventually what we want to do is to have the tour guide who are willing to deliver tours in this program to get their own certificate. Pedro, for example, he actually got the audio description certificate in Brazil as well. So, and usually just from the tour guide qualification and training process standpoint, once we have the people who are interested in this program, we give them the training material. Basically, we kind of like comb through all of the resources that is publicly available. And we also put in quite a bit of the learnings and experiences that we were able to gain through the development of this program from the members in the community, as well as after each of the tours. We always have a internal summarize, recap session, and then we include all of our learnings into this training material as well. And then we provide the training material to the tour guides, and then we schedule them for the first qualification session. And a lot of the, because this is a very unique type of tour guiding, we usually go through probably 2 or 3 rounds of qualification to make sure that the tour guide is equipped enough knowledge and the skill sets to be able to deliver the tours. During the tour, we actually turn off, like usually there are 3 or 4 people involved in our team, and each one of us turn off our screen so we don't see anything. We basically take the tour as if we don't have adequate vision. And we ask a lot of questions and we challenge our tour guides and we challenge each other as well. So after the qualification, then they are getting into a continuous improvement program. Basically, after each tour, we have a recap. We give them our thoughts. Our host will be the ones actually capturing all those knowledge, and we share the knowledge with our hosts. What are the things that went well? What are the things that we think can be further improved based on our audience feedback? So that's kind of like what our immediate and also our long-term training program for the tour guide is.
Awesome. One resource that we have here in the American Council of the Blind is called the Audio Description Project, founded by Dr. Joel Snyder, who wrote The Visual Made Verbal, which is all about producing great audio description for film and television. But we list, all the places that you can find audio description, as well as, including museums, cultural centers, national parks. So you may want to reach out and connect with them as well, as a resource, and also to potentially, have them list the website as well. So,
awesome.
and it's Audio Description Project. If you go to the American Council of the Blind.org and click on Audio Description Project, it'll bring up all that information. Let me do another hand check real quick. Diane, did any hands pop up?
Also, we're just about to 10 minutes and no raised hands.
All right. Well, I have Diane and Holly behind the scenes, Any questions from either of you guys?
I wondered if they had a tour of Australia. That's one place I've always wanted to go.
Trish?
Yes.
Oh,
go ahead, Trisha. Yeah. Oh, so yeah, we do have tours in Australia, and not at this moment in the audio disruptor program yet, but we will be including that those locations. I think we have 2 locations in Australia and in New Zealand as well into this program in the future.
Okay, thank you.
I'm really interested in the private tours. When do you think that will go live? That part of the program?
Anthony, I'm not too sure yet, because I have to talk to our director of experience, just to take a look at the current situation that we have from the readiness standpoint. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we cannot do it at any time. Like if somebody just send us an email, we did the same things for the virtual, just the cited virtual tour before we formally introduced the private tour. People just send us an email just saying, hey, can you do this? And basically, if our calendar allows, if we have an opening on our calendar, we can make it happen.
I'm curious, would you be interested in doing a sample tour? We have what's called, this is a media show, so it goes out over streaming, it becomes podcasted, but we also have a community call structure internally, and we have over 150 calls a week. Would you be interested in doing a sample tour as promotion for American Council of the Blind members, to give them an idea of what it's going to feel like? Maybe not interactive, but just giving, maybe a 30-minute presentation of something to get the appetite wet for what tours are like through Discovery Live.
Yeah, absolutely. Happening. It'll be our honor and a pleasure to be able to do that. And thank you for offering. So yeah, absolutely. We can, after this this call, we can just talk about, what kind of, date and time that works the best, and then we can make it happen.
Awesome. All right.
We have a raised hand.
All right, cool.
Diana is back.
Hi, Diana.
Sorry to be monopolizing things. I was searching on the website, and I put in discover.live / and then I think I'm getting a word wrong or leaving out a word or something after that. Can you give it one more time, please?
Yes, it's after the /, it's audio described tours.
Okay,
One
audio
word.
described. Okay. Well, okay.
Yeah.
I got the audio described. I was leaving out tours. Okay, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Well, I was gonna say, give us the website again, but here we go. Yeah. So I'm gonna ask both of you to give a 2-minute pitch. Why should we go and check out these tours? And we'll start with Trish this time.
Okay. Why should you go and check out these tours? Well, if in fact you are someone who enjoys travel, either has traveled before in person or just enjoys the idea of it, if you are someone who is curious about places outside of your own, your own space, if you enjoy food, if you enjoy nature, if you enjoy architecture, if you enjoy art, if you enjoy music, then you should take in these tours, because that is what they are all about. It's like life's pleasures, kind of packaged in these 60-minute live experiences. And it's just an easy way, really easy way, to expand your horizons, expand your mind, expand your knowledge. We kind of look at it as lifelong learning. And I can tell you that even when I've been to a place virtually 20, 30 times, like I mentioned Ljubljana, Slovenia earlier, every time I fall back in love with it because I learned something new. I hear a story about something I didn't hear before. I'll tell you a crazy thing. This is live, and so, it's unpredictable, which I look at as always good. Some of the circumstances are not necessarily good, but the ability to experience something live, not edited, not kind of pre-recorded. There's benefits to that kind of media, but live is really exceptional. We were in Mexico City just recently, and it was a group tour, probably 60 people in the audience, and there was an earthquake. And if anyone knows about Mexico City, the earthquakes there are significant. And we heard the sirens, we heard the rush of people. Our tour guide was very calm. We were very clear about, you need to be safe, so you can sign off and, we will take it from here. But he didn't. He stayed the course. He did exactly what he was supposed to do by local officials. But we actually rode the whole experience out with him. And what was supposed to be a tour of the City of Palaces ended up being about earthquakes. And so you never really know what's going to happen, but that's kind of the beauty of it. And although an earthquake in Mexico City might be extreme, there's just something really magical about being someplace live with people like Pedro who know their area, they're passionate about their area, and being able to ask questions as if you're there in person with them. So that's kind of my pitch. If you like any of the things that I talked about, and I think you'd be hard pressed not to, and you are someone who wants to experience new things in life, it's just a wonderful, wonderful way to do that. And we look forward to seeing you all and hosting you all.
Follow-up question to you, Trish. You mentioned voting for those who have taken tours and things. Since this is such a new offering on the audio described, is there an email or something that our community can write you to request certain tours sooner rather than other? You know what I mean? Is there somewhere where we can request tours?
Yes, absolutely. hello@discover.live. So simply hello
at discover.live.
You got it. We would love to hear from you.
All right. So Jay, to close us out, instead of giving us,
can I come
Diane,
in
do we have a hand?
We have a raised hand, but there, we've only got like 3 minutes left or so.
Mm-hmm. I think we're gonna pass on the hand. I'll take it as soon as we go off air.
Okay.
Jay, quickly, what besides actually taking tours at the $49, what else can our community do to help this grow?
Thank you, Anthony. I think it's just help us to spread word is the most important and I think most effective as well for us. And I just want to add on to what Trish was just mentioning. In my mind, the biggest benefit of travel is actually open mind. And we do a lot of the virtual tours with large corporations, those Fortune 500 companies, mainly on a DI and A field, for people to really understand the differences, appreciate the differences, but at the same time, understand there are more commonalities. One biggest thing to me personally, while working with the members in the community, is that for me to realize how able the person with blindness and the low vision are, compared to everybody else. I think there are some misperceptions out there, and it goes both ways. I think on one side we are including the audio described tours in our annual calendar.
But you're learning from us as well. Yeah,
we're learning from each other. I think people are different, and we understand the difference, but people will see there are more commonalities than differences.
All right. So on that note, we're going to go off air, but I'll take that last hand once we're done. Thursday evening at 8:30, Behind the Music with Tim and I. And thank you so much to Jay, Trish, Pedro, and Peggy. It has been a great 2 hours. Thank you so much, Diane and Holly. And like I said, I am taking next week off for the holiday, but I will be back on June 2nd with T. Scott Thornhill, our new executive director. Have a beautiful Sunday, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us.
You've been listening to Sunday Edition on ACB Media. Stream 1, that's American Council of the Blind Media, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Episodes drop every week at 1 p.m. on Sundays, and you can email us at sundayeditionac all one word, Sunday Edition with the letters AC at gmail.com. Let's brunch again together next Sunday.